Good afternoon, everyone. Wow. I'm a member of the New York City Police Department, so I am not used to seeing women Thank you. I am not used to seeing women outnumber men in a crowd or on a dais, so thank you all for being here. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's with great pleasure and pride that I stand here to present my friend Glenn Close with the 2012 Matrix Award. I first met Glenn in 2005 when she was joining the gritty TV police drama, The Shield. I was the NYPD's commanding officer of the 6th Precinct in the West Village at the time, and I received a phone call that Glenn was going to come down to the station house and prepare for her new role. Well, I have to admit, my first thought was, wait a second, the bunny boiler? Well, after she arrived, it was clear to me that Glenn didn't want to just act like the precinct commander. She wanted to be the precinct commander. As the incredibly talented performer that she is, she became the no-nonsense captain of the dysfunctional precinct in The Shield, and after watching just one episode, I felt she got it, and Glenn was one tough cookie not to be reckoned with. My police officers were impressed. I started to fear for my job. Glenn was that good, as anyone who has seen her in The Shield knows. Her performance made believers out of millions of viewers that women could be strong, effective police executives, something that I've been preaching for years. It was another amazing performance by one of the world's greatest actresses. Glenn's stellar career on stage, in film, and on television is marked with enormous accomplishments, each performance being stronger than the one before. Glenn Close has won so many awards for her work. 3 Tony Awards, 2 Golden Globes, and an Emmy Award, along with 5 Oscar nominations, 9 Golden Globe nominations, and 8 Emmy nominations. Gee, and I was happy just to pass the sergeant's test. But what I've really come to admire the most about Glenn is her passion and commitment. One of the best examples of that is her latest film, Albert Nobbs, the story of a young victim of sexual assault in 19th century Ireland. Glenn told me she fell in love with the character almost 30 years ago when she played her on stage. She dreamed of bringing her to film and finally did so after a long and difficult process. Folks, it was worth the wait. Riveting is the only word to describe that movie. I watched it and I could not move. As the former commanding officer of the NYPD Special Victims Squad, I can tell you that Albert's story is timeless. It speaks to all the victims who feel invisible and powerless and are just trying to survive. It's a universal story of survival and strength, conveying a very, very special message, especially to so many who have suffered sexual assaults and other violent and traumatic experiences. That is positive proof of Glenn's ability to communicate various situations to those watching her, and what makes her so deserving of the Matrix Award today. My friend Glenn appeared on Good Morning America and said, "No matter how long and hard you struggle, if a thing is supposed to get made, there comes a time when it takes on a life of its own, and it happens." That's the passion of a great actress and a great artist. Glenn wrote Albert Nobbs, produced Albert Nobbs, and was Albert Nobbs. Ladies and gentlemen, I love a woman with power, guts, and confidence. Please join me in welcoming the beautiful, talented, passionate, and brilliant Glenn Close.
Wow, I want to congratulate all my fellow awardees and all the incredible women who have presented. I've been sitting right there next to the podium, and they have beautiful manicures. I have to say that being here today makes me feel like a little kid in a room full of grown-ups. I've had to keep literally myself from curtsying when introduced to one amazing woman after another. It's a subliminal default setting from a childhood in 1950s Greenwich, Connecticut. And then I think, okay, well, maybe some of the characters I've played will make me feel a little better. Trust no one. I won't be ignored, Dan. I can't tell you how honored I am to be presented with this award by a great communicator, Deputy Chief Shortell. And how wonderful it is to say Deputy Chief when referring to someone so short. But even more wonderful to say it to someone who happens to be a woman packing heat. I'm honored because I can't think of anyone who embodies what this award is all about more than she does. I don't think she's aware of this, but I consider Deputy Chief Shortell, Theresa, to be one of my life-changing mentors. What she taught me when I first met her in the 6th Precinct House down in West 10th Street 7 years ago has made a significant difference in my life. She showed me around and introduced me to the officers. I sensed immediately the deep respect and affection they had for her. At the time, she was the only female commanding officer in all 76 precincts. Because of that, she wore her uniform every day to reinforce the fact that she was in command. Certain images help. I decided then and there that my character on the Shield would also wear her uniform every day. In fact, by the end of our meeting, I told Theresa that I was just going to be her. That's no joke. And that she better tune in and check up on how I was doing. She did. I also made sure that the writers on the Shield wouldn't make a surprise decision along the way and turn me into a bad or corrupt cop. I didn't want to let Theresa down. They promised me, and they were true to their word. At that first meeting, she talked a lot about team building. She knew her team and how it was functioning, not through someone else's eyes, but through her own. Theresa's officers knew that she could show up anytime, any place, particularly when they were responding to a serious incident. She wasn't interested in sitting behind a desk. She was interested in observing and supporting her team in the trenches, shoulder to shoulder with them. They knew that as much as she challenged them, she always challenged herself more. Another important character trait for my captain, Monica Rawlings. I love what I do, but I'm under no illusions. The fact that I'm standing in front of you today accepting this astonishing award is the result of 30 years of team effort. One inspiring, challenging team after another. The team of professors at the Theater of the College of William and Mary, who sensed the seriousness of my intent to be an actress and spent 4 years helping me learn and prepare for it. Dr. Howard Scammon, head of the department, was another great mentor of mine. My senior year, he came up to me and said, "Remember, you're a big fish in a very little pond." He believed success should never negate humility. And he loved risk. He would stand in the wings before a theater production and say, "Just do it." The teams that I joined after graduation when I came to New York and found myself in the position of being a teeny tiny fish in a gigantic pond. The cast and crews of all the theater productions, television, and movies I've been in since. Like any team, they are delicate, organic, chemical organisms that are highly susceptible to negative as well as positive elements. My first job was as an understudy. So I sat in the back of the theater and watched rehearsals, green with envy and dying to go on. I observed early on the chemical reactions that resulted, for example, from someone not paying attention, the collective time that was wasted because it affected everyone's momentum, which in turn affected people's focus, attitude, and energy. I saw the great value in letting people know when they are doing a good job. Because in a collaborative art like theater, everyone counts, and people do their best work when they feel they are an important and acknowledged part of the team, no matter what their job is. And I learned how a deep knowledge of your craft and having the discipline to do something again and again and again until it's right ultimately frees you to take flight. Because whatever you create won't have lasting resonance, won't surprise and connect, if it's not deeply rooted in the basic structure that knowledge of your craft provides. Without a basic understanding of the mechanics of how to fly, you will never be able to grow wings strong enough to take you higher and further than your wildest dreams. There is always something new to learn. As I slowly gained positions of leadership in the teams I was hired to be part of, I knew that I had a lot of influence on their chemistry. How I came to work every day matters. And I seek teams that make the process fun. Otherwise, life is just too short. People that I look forward to working with and will be challenged by. Teams where work is more important than the egos and any friction is creative, not personal. To have fun, to play. Laurence Olivier is quoted as saying that if you scratch an actor, you'll find an actor. The lauded director Richard Ayres takes exception to that and says that if you scratch an actor, you'll find a child. Not someone who is childish, but certainly in the case of all great actors, someone who is childlike, who has not lost the ability to play, to live the moment. All the best teams I've been a part of have allowed that. The teams of hair and makeup artists and costumers who played a major part in getting me here today, who plunged my face into ice baths at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm not a great shopper, so it's a huge luxury to be in a profession in which I can come to work looking like a bag lady and emerge an hour or so later looking fabulous. My husband, who is here today, said not long after we met, "I got it. It's all about the hair." The most important teams of all, my home teams. First, the women who one after another helped me, a single working mom, raise my daughter Annie. Katie Law, who went to France with us for dangerous liaisons when Annie was only 7 weeks old, who convinced me that I wouldn't be able to nurse wearing an 18th century corset. So Annie was weaned the week before we left. If you ever watch that movie again and notice how fabulous my breasts are, you now know why. Audrey from Wyoming, Lori from California, and my way or the highway Pat, who was with us from when Annie was 3 to when she graduated from high school. Pat and I took Annie to college. I introduced Pat to the college president as Annie's other mother. Then I realized she thought we were a lesbian couple. It's fabulous. My beautiful Annie has been a treasured teammate since she was born. As her custodian, I have watched her grow up to be an exceptional person who I love and respect. Her journey is just beginning, and I can't wait to watch it unfold. the close family team. Together we've taken on the challenge of helping to fight the stigma and discrimination around mental illness by co-founding Bring Change to Mind. My sister Jess has bipolar disorder and her son has schizoaffective disorder. They were willing to out themselves as living with mental illness in a national campaign. They have become eloquent advocates for those living with mental illness. We have a world-class advisory council of stigma researchers, doctors, and social scientists who are aiding us in providing a bridge between the science and the message. And I have married into another amazing home team. David Shaw, his siblings, kids, and grandkids. It has opened up a whole new world for me. David is in a completely different world from mine, biotech investing. He and I could write a fabulous book, deconstructing the mystique of communication. Or, I have no friggin' idea what you're talking about. Contrary to a lot of ancient interviews, I love being married. When I first visited David's house, there was a toy bunny boiling on the stove. Then he got us into huge full-body sumo suits, and he proceeded to wrestle me to the ground and sit on me. It was an incredible turn-on. David profoundly informs and enriches my life in too many ways to mention here. At that first meeting with Theresa, the thing that resonated most with me was her response to my question, "What is the hardest thing about your job?" Her answer was, being a woman and not letting it matter. I didn't understand what that meant until I walked onto the set of The Shield. The place was literally groaning with testosterone. And even though it was make-believe, I felt the chemistry in the room and shrank a little in my shoes. Here I was, an unfamiliar female, a star to boot, being brought in to take command. My automatic feminine default position kicked in, a little apologetic, a little soft, a little flirty. They won't like me if I'm strong and assertive. And then I heard Theresa's voice in my ear. Be a woman and don't let it matter. Don't apologize for your strength or your talent or your ability to lead or your smarts. Grab it, own it, live it. And with her cheering on in my head, I went on to kick some serious ass in that show. I met Deputy Chief Shortell for breakfast about 5 years ago. She was at a turning point. She sincerely thought that she had reached the proverbial glass ceiling, that she'd gone as far as she would be able to go in the profession that she so deeply loved. I would think that practically all of the women in this room have been in that place. But like most of you, Theresa didn't quit. And to her surprise, though maybe not to the surprise of her officers, she was promoted to inspector, and not long after was asked to take command of the Special Victims Unit. She was then promoted to deputy chief and put in command of the citywide gangs division, proof of her undeniable, unavoidable abilities. Many of you here today have attained your positions of leadership because your prodigious talents finally couldn't be ignored or denied. I salute you for that. Today, out of the 40 top-ranking officers in the NYPD, only 2 are women. People ask me if my career is more problematic now that I'm a woman of a certain age. The answer is yes. Do you still have a passion for what you do? Yes. Theresa and I, with all of you in this room, will keep pushing that glass ceiling higher and then smash through it. What's the alternative? We will not be ignored. Thank you, Theresa, for your friendship and inspiration and for your distinguished service to this great city. Thank you, Jana Rich, for nominating me for this award. Thank you, David, Annie, and my whole beautiful family for your love, humor, and support. And thanks to Women in Communications for this great honor.